Hi everyone, it's Kiki here again today, and today I'm bringing you a masculine layout with a few feminine touches. So let's get started. Thanks again for visiting my channel today. I'm working with Prima marketing materials again today. This collection here is the Engraver collection. So there's quite a bit here. I'm going to be using some lovely flowers, this jute rickrack, and these are really cool. They're butterflies and bark stars, lots of metal pieces. So lots of masculine touches, but also with the flowers that came with the collection. It's an older collection and I love it. I think it's so versatile. So I decided I wanted to do another layout of this with this collection. So my husband and I just celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary, so I wanted to highlight him in one of my layouts again. So I have a couple of pictures that I selected and then just printed them out in black and white. And then I've got some of the engraver papers that I'm using, and I'm just going to distress them and also cut these into banners. So I'm playing around with the placement a little bit, and just to try to get the layering right, see how it's going to play out. I don't end up finally choosing this one. This particular layout I thought was just kind of going to throw off. I wanted to have a lot of white space up in the left corner and keep most of the photos and embellishments on the bottom right. So here I've got this frame paper that I'm going to use to put the photos on, and I'm just using my Prima Distress tool. And I've sped it up here just so that you don't have to sit through all of this. So I really like distressing the edges, so I'm going to distress this particular paper. And that's going to be sort of the frame for my photos. Instead of matting my photos, I'm just going to put them on that particular paper, but popped up a bit just for a little bit of added dimension. So here I'm making my banners, and the easiest way I find is just to lightly fold the edges at the bottom and then cut, meeting your scissors from the corners. So I'm going to distress these two and lightly with the Prima kit. And I've been really enjoying getting back to scrapbooking. When I left Ottawa, we did leave a lot of our materials because of the move, just, moving across country. So I did keep most of my Prima stuff, so that's why I'm still using it again. But I love it. I just find it's so lovely, especially this collection. It's really masculine, like these dark browns and blacks and tans. So, but I find that now I'm starting to want to build up my stash again. And so my husband bought me a lovely anniversary present. And so it's a platform that you can just easily move to the dining room, for example, if I want to just finish a page and while we're watching TV or something. So can't wait till that comes in next week. So maybe you'll see that on one of my next videos. Speaking of my next videos, let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see from me, if there's any specific techniques that you'd like to see. I've got a couple of interesting, I'd say finishing touches at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that, and you'll see how I managed to add a little bit of mixed media flair to this, but at the same time not overpower the layout with it. So keep watching for that. So this page here, I love at the top that it's got the word love in it, and I really don't want to cut the top banner. So I decided that I would just cut the bottom, and then I'm going to have it at the top, go straight to the top of the page. And I felt that worked, and it kind of let me keep the parts of the paper that I really loved. These were just scraps from one other layout that I had done of my husband just about last week. So I didn't want to see them go to waste. And I like using paper strips. With this engraver collection, I got the papers that were actually in the A4 size, and so they didn't have 12 by 12. So the base paper that I'm using here is one of the older base papers called the Ledger Pad from Prima Marketing. and it works with the collection well, so I decided to use that as the base. So now I've got that down, and now I'm just going to proceed with gluing down my papers. And I change up actually how I'm going to put them down. I decided that I'm moving the darker paper over a little bit more to give it a little bit more room on the side if I want to do some embellishments on the side, on the right side. But what I found is that I do want to sort of set off these banners, the white banners, they're sort of creamy colored. So I pulled out some sepia ink and I'm just running the edges along just to give them a little bit of punch so that you can actually see where one starts and the other, ends. And with your banners, a great tip here is just if you want to ink the edges of your banners, just go right against the corner of the ink pad and then you'll get the line. So I have done both banners now, and so now I'm going to glue them down. And with this big banner, because I know I'm not going to tuck anything underneath it, I'm going all over the edges except for the bottom, so that I can curl up the banner a little bit. And I'm using today some Scotch quick dry glue, and I find I like this with paper. It's comparable to the art glitter glue that you can get. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room, and then it dries really quickly and stays put. So you'll see that you can actually use it too on other materials besides paper, and it works really well. So here I've got the larger banner, and then I'm going to just put a small strip down the middle of the smaller banner so that I can tuck things under if I want to. So I've just moved that around a little bit and see how it gives me a little bit more wiggle room. And I'm going to put down the photo mat now. So yeah, I've been taking some photos of my husband and I and trying to work through this pandemic with being a little bit more creative. It's helped me really deal with the stress of things, and working from home as well part-time. So I'm really blessed that way. I'm not like a lot of work-at-home moms, though, who have children that are trying to deal with this as well. And kudos to you if you have them. Let me know in the comments, too, if you're doing little creative crafts with the kids and how they're doing with the pandemic as well. A lot of kids, I find, depending on their age, if they're younger, you think, oh, they don't really notice what's going on. They think it's summer break or something. But I've noticed even the kids next door, they've noticed something strange is going on. So crafts are really handy for keeping kids busy and letting them do things with their hands. And maybe they can do a simple scrapbook page too, right? To document the pandemic here. So here I'm playing with some of the embellishments that came with the chipboard sheet for that collection for Engraver. And I'm being fussy here with the clock. I always like to make sure that the clock does have noon at the top. That's just one of my little things, I think. But so I wanted to pop up these photos on top of some of the chipboard just to give a little bit more dimension. So I think I'm going to work with that. We'll see. So I'm going to those 3 pieces I am going to put down right away. And you'll see that I'm working with some foam squares that are actually in black. I find I like the black ones for the masculine layouts because I find, first of all, they don't really show up too much, which is good. But this is what I had on hand. And, we got to work with what we got to work with while we've got this pandemic going on. Michael's isn't open in my area except for curbside pickup, and I'm not about to try to put in an order because not a lot of their items are available online. So I'm just, I'm going to work with the stash that I've got and bash some stash. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to put the photos like this with the close-up of him closer toward the center of the page. And I'm just going to put down some foam squares now and get those actually down because I know that I like the placement there. And later on, I do kind of fiddle around a little bit just because these are printed at home and the photos are glossy, which I'm not too crazy about. But again, work with what you got, right? But I do find that they're curving a little bit. So I go back and add a little bit more of the foam squares underneath just to pop them up so that they're laying flat on the page. So I'll tuck one under each of the corners here, you'll see. So as I'm working along with this, it's a pretty nice day here in Vancouver. We've finally got some nice spring weather, but it's quite warm this weekend. I see some folks have gotten snow. I can't even imagine, honestly. Well, I'll tell you, if I had been back east and we had snow, it'd definitely be a scrapbook day. But it's kind of hard getting into the scrap room when it's a nice day, but I wanted to make sure that I got this layout done today and get this video up for you. So again, I'm just playing around with some of the embellishments here from the Engraver collection. It's got keys and all kinds of masculine touches, so I like that. So I'm just playing around with the foam squares. I wish there was an easier way to actually take the backing off these squares. I still have such a hard time with it sometimes. So I'm going to do that. And then these are foam, these embellishments are actually chipboard stickers, but I don't take the backing off. So this one's popping up just because it's coming off the backing a little bit. So I've just tucked a little bit of glue under there to make it permanent. I know that some people have tricks with making stickers not sticky so that you can place them around the pages with using things like baby talc and things like that to just take the stickiness off, but I just prefer to just leave the backing on. So I'm just playing around with some embellishments here. I've been playing around too with the idea of subscribing to a monthly kit club. I really used to love getting, I oftentimes work with kits. You haven't seen me actually work with a kit here. I've been working with my stash, but I do really enjoy working with kits just because everything coordinates and it just makes it so much easier to get started on a page. Sometimes, you know, you get creative block, and you know, if it came up to me trying to sit and play and try to figure out what layout embellishments I'm going to use, and I didn't have a kit, sometimes that would just be enough to, like, you know, want to give up. So I started working with some Simple Stories kits and things like that, and just found them so much easier to just, you know, if you have some pages you want to do, and you just don't feel like you got a lot creatively in you, everything goes right. So it's so much easier that way. And then I find once I've got my rhythm going, then I can sort of explore with my stash a little bit more. And I find that a lot easier in terms of getting my layouts done and having some creative juices flowing. So I'm just about ready. I'm going to put these lovely bark, I love these bark stars and the butterfly, so I'm just placing those, and I'm going to place them, I'm thinking on top of the papers or the flowers, just to give some extra layers. If you know me, I make chunky pages. There is no doubt about it. And so I'm used to that. Some people aren't going to be too crazy about it. So, you know, in this particular type of a layout, you can definitely replace those chunky flowers with some flatter paper flowers, and that would work out fine. So I've glued everything down now. Now I'm just going to put on that mixed media touch. So what I find that I like to do is just pull out the Heidi Swapp Shine Sprays and just, you know, instead of spraying it onto your page, just throwing some dots of color there, splashing it around the page just to give a little bit of color. This particular color is called Bronze, and it leaves this really gorgeous shimmer behind. So I put it everywhere on the page here. Not too much, but just it breaks up the page and gives it a little bit of a mixed media, sort of oldie, you know, vintage kind of look to the page. One thing though that I find is, you know, this has a lot of browns. It's a cream page, but it's got a lot of browns, a lot of black in it. And so I'm also going to use some of the Dilutions white ink spray, and this actually is a lovely spray because if it's on paper and you're actually splatting it around, it doesn't turn translucent like a lot of white sprays do. So it, instead of actually pulling out acrylic paint, which a lot of people will do with a brush and then just kind of splat it around the page, I use the Dilutions white spray, and it turns out really lovely. And then if you need a little bit more, now on the paper flowers though, because they're more porous, it will absorb that, so it won't be as opaque. But on the papers, it turns out lovely and opaque, so they're nice white splashes. So I find that kind of lightens up the page a little bit more. But the two-tone with the bronze and then the white just gives us this really, I don't know, it's a kind of unique effect. And then of course I'm going to put some Nouveau drops around the page. These are like my new best friends, I tell you. Although I did find some liquid pearls in my stash, and I'm going to play with both, I think, in the next video to see how they compare. I think they're pretty similar, but I just love them. I need to get some more colors though. I definitely have some more colors in the Nouveau, or in the liquid pearls, but the Nouveau drops are just so pretty, and I find it so much easier to hold that bottle because the bottle's a little bit bigger as well. So and I use it on the flowers as well as the centers, and I love that instead of trying to find a little gem or something. I did pull out some gems, you know me and my bling, but I decided not to put them on the page. So I hope you really enjoyed this page. And I'm going to show you some of the details here up closer in the camera. You'll see some of those white opaque dots. They stayed opaque. I love that. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks again for coming and visiting my channel. Enjoy these close-ups. And make sure to get into your scrap room and document this pandemic and what's going on in our lives right now, because it's such a unique time. And if you do actually get a layout done, please leave a link to it in the comments, and I'll make sure to give that layout some love. Enjoy some of the close-ups here, and we'll see you again next time on my channel. Again, remember to give me a big thumbs up and a subscribe if you want to be notified of my next coming layouts. Have a good one.